Good time for new Pepto Kids gummies. Fast support for little tummies.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
A psoriasis flare-up can make a walk in the park, well, no walk in the park.
It's that obvious, huh? I've tried so many lotions and creams, but I still have symptoms.
So those don't do enough to treat the inflammation beneath the skin, leaving you with those uncontrolled symptoms.
Makes sense, but what else can I do?
You can get real with your dermatologist so they can help you get clear. Make an appointment and, oh, you're already on it.
Hi, yes, I'd like to make an appointment.
Get real clear about psoriasis at letsgetrealclear.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Hello, Fargo. This is John Adams, your host of Talk of the Town. My show is designed to highlight everything great about the city, the valley, and the country in which we live. I've had the great fortune of meeting, working, and living with wonderful people in the Fargo-Moorhead area, and I want to bring their stories to you. Human interest stories, sports, timely topics that affect all of us in the Red River Valley. Talk of the Town with John Adams. Tune in for positivity and fun.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. This is something I find it along the way.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm. Wait. Calm down.
Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus.
It's Friday.
It's a fun Friday. Welcome to 1:06 p.m. in the afternoon. This is Weather and Ag in Focus. We see you. How are you, Bridgette? How's your day going?
Dandy, and I like the fact that we're working on name tags again today.
Where's
Excellent
yours?
work there, gentlemen.
We don't know who
Didn't
you
work.
are. Oh, there's your. You got
Should
a
I go get it
virtual
out?
name tag.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can go dig that out of my bag if you'd like.
Well, hey, numbers of the program, the same as every other day, but 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoes phone line. Our emails, weather or ag at flagfamily.com is how you can get in contact today if you want to join in on our conversation, have some fun, or just join in with any other questions that you may have throughout the course of our show. We got some fun things in store for today. Let's see. We'll be talking about the Harvest Bowl a little bit, as well as ATV and UTV safety, and also the Stockmen's Association out of North Dakota. Talk a little bit about some of their awards, and in our next segment that'll be coming up about 12 minutes from now or so. Our guest, Dr. Carrie Miranda.
I've got a little bit of ag breaking news if you would like that, or do you guys want to do the weather first and then let's go into a few headlines? How's that sound?
Ooh, breaking news. That sounds
interesting.
Dean, what do you want to do?
Well, let's just do the weather and get that out of the way. How's that? We've got increasing sunshine out there in the FM area. Temperatures are in the mid-30s in the FM area. Then mid-30s down in the Southern Valley. A little colder up in the Northern Valley, obviously, with the snowpack. We'll make it in the mid to upper 30s across most of the area as we head into the afternoon. Maybe a little bit cooler over that snowpack with winds a little breezy at times out of the north at 10 to 20 and occasionally gusting a little higher than that. Low to mid-20s overnight tonight, so that means a nice crisp start for the Minnesota Deer Opener tomorrow. That'll be good. Hopefully get the deer moving early in the morning because it does warm up in the afternoon into the mid-40s, it looks like. And then upper 40s on Sunday, a few scattered rain showers possible before we cool it off a little bit, back down to about 40 to start off next week. So pretty quiet weather pattern. We don't have any big storms. We don't have any Arctic air masses. The precip that we have on Sunday looks maybe a tenth of an inch. And then we've got another minor system on Tuesday. But again, no big storms in sight, no Arctic outbreaks in sight either. So that's good news.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, pretty decent looking forecast.
Yeah.
Right on.
Actually, very good news that no one heard the word Arctic and nobody panicked, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you got some breaking news here, do you there, Bridgette? Do you want a little background music to go under it, or you just want to dive in?
That's totally up to you. You're running the board in there, so you do what you got to do.
I'll just leave it silent.
Okay, here's a couple things that are going on. First of all, late yesterday afternoon, right around 5 o'clock, there was an announcement that the EPA's decision on chlorpyrifos, which is used under the brand name in the ag industry, there's a variety of brand names, but nonetheless, chlorpyrifos is the active ingredient. It's an insecticide primarily used in sugar beets, soybeans, and sunflowers. Well, here a couple years ago, chlorpyrifos was the registration was vacated. So it was essentially moved to be restricted. That the EPA was essentially going to ban that product's use in the United States in agricultural crops. What has since happened is that as of last night, the circuit court reversed that decision, saying no, chlorpyrifos can have a registration here in the United States. So people are like, okay, great, I'm going to get to use that product again next year in my sugar beets or my sunflowers. A few steps have to happen. First, states have to go in and approve a state registration, even if we have a federal registration on a herbicide, insecticide, or fungicide. Second, we then see that there's only one manufacturing company, that's Garda. They're a generic manufacturer. They're the only company who did not voluntarily vacate their label registration for the federal label on that product. So people would need to go back through the re-registration product in order to bring those to market. That means that if you are a farmer and you have old inventory in your shed, in your machine shed or your shop, it may not still be labeled to use. There's some hurdles that have to be taken over first before we get to that point. So stay tuned. This will change as we learn more, especially from the EPA, etc. If it's going to be challenged, this is a big win in the eyes of farmers and farm groups, because it means that we aren't at a total loss when there are times that we have been ruled against by activist groups in the Court of Appeals or by EPA. We still may have some opportunity to hear our voice and have decisions based on sound science, which is what we want. So lots of discussion that's going to happen about chlorpyrifos over the next few months. That's one thing that happened. And then also late yesterday afternoon, North Dakota had a new record high for land sales, and that was $17,500 per acre that was sold in Pembina County. There's a lot of details that go along with that. It was bought by a family farm in that neighborhood. It's highly productive land. It is land that's in an area that could raise sugar beets or potatoes, etc. So there's a lot of reasons why that should have happened. But nonetheless, those are two things that went on late in the day yesterday.
Cool. That's kind of exciting. New records being broken. What was that value
records
again?
Being broken. $17,500.
Is that per acre?
Yes.
$17,000. Wow.
Yes.
Expensive.
It was expensive, but that was apparently a piece of land that someone really wanted. So there you have it.
So what's average? What is the average price per acre? I mean, I don't know if you have a ballpark or anything.
So it's changed. Last year at this time, we would have probably given you one number, and now we've had some record sales. There was even some really productive land here in Cass County that sold for about $13,000 recently. So I don't have what our local average is right now, because again, these are all going to be fairly skewed here for a little while.
Right on.
We'll see what it looks like. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the breaking news. And why don't we just dive right into one of our topics that we were going to talk about today, and that's the NDSU Harvest Bowl.
Okay, and so Harvest Bowl is going to be next Friday. I have to look at my calendar. That's November the 10th. Harvest Bowl is a celebration of both agriculture and athletics. When North Dakota State was first founded, it was, of course, under the grant that offered land grant university status, and that was the Morrill Grant. But also athletics have been a big part of NDSU all those years of existence. Next Friday night, there is going to be the Harvest Bowl banquet. That's where an agriculturalist of the year will be honored. We already interviewed him. His name is Dan Wagsland. He's recently retired as the executive director of the North Dakota Grain Growers Association. Dan is from Hannaford, North Dakota, and farmed in that area for about 27 years. Additionally, college athletes who are in the College of Ag and have received scholarships, they will be honored at the banquet as well. So they'll get time to recognize all of them. And there will be a farm family from every county in North Dakota. So that'll be 53 farm families and also 6 from the border counties of Minnesota that will all be recognized for their good work in agriculture. Again, that's next Friday night, Harvest Bowl at NDSU. And if you're interested in attending, tickets are still available, I believe, through NDSU's foundation.
And Bridgette, correct me if I'm wrong, did you not win that award last year?
So if you mean the FFA foundation this summer. That was different. This was with in June. I was recognized by the FFA Foundation in basically one of their premier spots for the work I do with FFA. With Harvest Bowl, I am lucky enough to be the new MC. This will be my first year emceeing the Harvest Bowl banquet next Friday.
They do know that you have a public fear of speaking, right? Or do they not know that? Okay.
No, hate to talk. It'll be tough to overcome.
Well, you sure do a good job when you do it, though.
Well, I have all sorts of stories to tell about my years at NDSU, and hopefully I get to run into NDSU's president, Dr. Cook. I'd like to visit about having paid my tuition and all my past parking tickets. What do I get, or when do I get my own long-term free parking pass on campus anytime I need it? So that's one of the things I'm hoping for.
Nice.
Right on.
Nice.
We'll see if it happens. So those are just some of the things going on over at NDSU. And I think, additionally, we want to recognize this is an awards time of the year, and North Dakota Stockman Association, which is our largest preeminent livestock organization in the state. They have done a fabulous job in their their state convention was held the end of September. They recognized a number of people. There would be Jamie Haig from Carson, North Dakota. He was given the honorary membership award. He and his brother, Jamie and his brother Claire operate Blue Hill Ranch near Carson. Additionally, Kevin Winter, who has been a North Dakota Stockman Association member for 49 years, won the Top Hand Award. Yeah, 49 years of being a member. That was excellent. Then also Curtis Brown. That's it. And then Curtis Brown, he is from Montpelier, North Dakota. He was the Rancher of the Year, and this was the 94th convention for North Dakota Stockmans. It was held in Watford City at the end of September. Big deal having it in Watford City. That was actually the home and where the North Dakota Stockman's Foundation began.
Cool. They got a big game going on, NDSU. Is that tonight, tomorrow night? When is that? Down in South Dakota?
Tomorrow in Brookings, NDSU will play the South Dakota State University Jackrabbits.
And they won the championship last year, didn't they?
They did.
So it's
they
kind of like a
champs.
rematch?
In a way, I think you could call that a rematch.
You think they stand a chance? Are they bringing their game this week, or are they still kind of in the midst of dropping the ball?
So about the last 4 times that I have bet on NDSU versus the Jacks, I've had to pay up in a significant amount of caramel rolls.
Then don't bet.
They say friends don't let friends bet, etc. So right now I have a lot of friends who are making sure that I'm not betting on this game and just keeping my mouth shut.
There you go. I was watching the UND game last week. They were playing some 0-7 team. I think it was Indiana or something. And they were up by like 2 touchdowns. I'm like, watch them screw this up. And they totally did. And they forced it into overtime. And the other team kicked a field goal. And they almost lost. It was very, very close. I'm like, wow. Totally saw that
sometimes coming. Better keep your eyes open in football. You never know where it might
definitely
turn.
Definitely do. Let's see. Those over on the live streams, YouTube, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us, Steve, Dirk, the rest of you. Appreciate the comments you're sending over there. We got a guest that'll be joining us here in a few moments after the American Ag Network. And Bridgette, do you want to introduce who Dr. Carrie Miranda is, what she does, a little precursor to what we'll be talking about?
I would. We had Dr. Miranda on right around Labor Day this year, and she was talking about her research at NDSU as a soybean breeder. Well, we wanted to come back and have that recap of how things went this summer now that she's had a chance to compile some research and so forth. So we're going to spend our next couple of segments with Dr. Carrie Miranda, soybean breeder at NDSU. Don't go away.
Most livestock contracts are triple digits lower. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Risvet with this market update. Mixed signals from cash and beef values are contributing to the lack of market enthusiasm today. Cash cattle trade is starting to trickle into the market with a few reports in Nebraska cattle selling at 184 live and 292 dressed. Now it will be interesting to see if feeders are willing to let cattle go at these prices or just how much longer. Many will hold on to current asking prices. So far, cattle left on show list remain firmly priced at 188 in the south and 294 across the north. Unlike last week when cattle trade drizzled in through the entire week, this week's trade could be over in a hurry this afternoon. Box beef prices are lower. Choice down 186 and select down 180 with a movement of 110 loads. Feeder cattle futures have pulled back from the sharp gain seen yesterday as traders focus more on end-of-the-week position squaring than any significant market direction. Now, the lower price is the first indication of a market loss in spot November feeder cattle futures since last week. And even with the triple-digit loss Friday, the feeder cattle market is still holding a gain of $4 per hundredweight for the week. The ability to distance price levels from the recent market lows is the biggest focus of most traders and market observers, as the aggressive 2-month slide in feeder cattle prices is leaving markets ready for even more buyer support in the weeks to come. We're going to look at the livestock numbers. You're listening to the American Ag Network.
In today's troubled world, our USA Armed Forces stand ready to protect you, your family, and our American way of life. When veterans return to civilian life, they deserve your recognition and support. You can help put vets to work by donating your car, truck, or van to Patriotic Hearts. Your donation will directly support programs to help vets find jobs or even start their own business. Donate today for fast, free pickup of your vehicle, running or not. Operators are standing by to answer questions about making a tax-deductible vehicle donation. Find out how you can make a difference in the life of a United States veteran. Call 800-209-6416 for 24-hour response. Call 800-209-6416. 800-209-6416. That's 800-209-6416.
Let's get a look at the livestock numbers. Live cattle December down 70 at 183.97. February down 105 at 185.37. April down 80 at 187.97. And the June live cattle, they're down 47 at 182.75. Feeders November down 177 at 240.85. January down 202 at 240.15. Lean hogs December down 145 at 71.82. February down 80 at 75.42. And the April lean hogs, they're down 102 at 80.47. Crude oil trading down a little over $2 at just over $80 a barrel. For the American Ag Network, I'm Richard Ristvet.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
And welcome back to WDAY. So glad that you are here joining us for Weather and Ag in Focus. And we're getting all the sounds in. We wouldn't want to miss out on the barn, the goat, any of them, right? So this is excellent. Thanks, guys. Now, I want to also make sure to give a great big shout out to our guest today, and that would be Dr. Carrie Miranda. Dr. Miranda is a soybean breeder at NDSU. And how are you today, Dr. Miranda?
Yes, I'm doing well. How is everyone over there?
Hey, we're hanging in there. We're doing well.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, everyone should be in good spirits because hopefully
Friday.
Harvest is over. That's a question mark for some people, but fortunately not for us. So.
Okay, so yes, it is a big question mark. So, all right, tell us a little bit more. For those who maybe didn't hear when you and I were talking back in September, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do over there at NDSU.
Yeah, no problem. My name is Dr. Carrie Miranda, and I am the soybean breeder at North Dakota State University. And it's my responsibility to create new soybean varieties that are publicly released and then licensed through whole infrastructure chain until certified seed is produced by North Dakota Crop Association, which is then available to growers. So, and also I teach and train students and do research, but the soybean variety releases are the most exciting part of my job, in my opinion.
So how did everything look at the end of the summer? Because you're done with harvest. Have you started tabulating data, et cetera? I mean, tell us about what happened this summer and what's going to be going on through this fall for you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because my whole team is analyzing data as we speak. And then I just ran up here to my office to do this interview. And then when this is completed, I'll go back downstairs to keep looking at the data. So yeah, we are in the thick of data analysis of this year. But from our first initial look at the data suggests that this year was actually pretty good. There were some locations that had water issues, like up in Grandin. And then we sometimes have herbicide drift issues in some locations as well. And then for people that are affected by iron deficiency chlorosis, that also seemed to be pretty tough this year. But if you don't have any of those challenges, you probably got really good yields.
So you mentioned that some of the work that you're doing helps bring public varieties out to our farmers in the state. Can you walk through that process just a little bit? What does that look like, Dr. Miranda, when you are evaluating for those varieties to go public?
Absolutely. So the one thing I have to emphasize is that in no way am I the only person who makes these decisions.
Yes.
I have an assistant breeder, Gustavo Cruz, who really is pivotal in this partnership because, again, no one person should be making these decisions. And so as we do now as a team, we look at the data from the very earliest stages that we can start evaluation. And then we decide on maybe like 1,000 experimental lines that seem promising. And then those will get tested and evaluated for yield. And then they go through a process of 4 years of testing. And during that time, the numbers reduce, the amount of testing increases, and the amount of people increase that are involved. So by the end of the 4th year of yield testing, I'm probably talking to about 20 to 30 different people about their opinions on what is the most successful soybean variety.
That's no small task to try to evaluate and give all the good ideas. And when you mentioned your team, you sent us a picture of your group, by the way. So I'm going to ask Jacob to put that in the live stream for us. And you wanted to just give a shout out to the work that all of the people around you do as well.
Yeah, we took this photo the last day of harvest in the morning, which was also the first morning that it was below zero or below 32 degrees. So I'm really proud that everyone was smiling because most of us had probably only been sleeping, max 6 hours for the couple of days before this because we were definitely like, oh, it's going to snow. We need to do whatever we can to finish on time. Yeah, definitely some people that are not used to North Dakota climates there. And then some people are lucky that we bought new equipment and have nicely warmed combines with cabs and climate controlled and all that. But then the other half of us, which I include myself in that team, to be fair, we're on the ground pulling plants out like on our hands and knees. So, there's definitely a difference in comfort too between the jobs. So I was happy that we all were still in good spirits on that last day of harvest because that is typically not how it goes.
So hold on. You're not using a full-size combine for all of this? Because when you just said we were using a small combine and we're on our hands and knees, I'm thinking you weren't like feeding the plants into your plot combine, were you? What were you doing?
Well, so that can happen actually. Our equipment, and I can also give a nice shout out to North Dakota Soybean Council because they helped to fund our new equipment, which has been amazing for maximizing our productivity in the program. Especially, you can see we're a semi-small team for the amount of acres, of experimental acres that we plant, which is about, I think, 113 experimental plots last year. Or excuse me, 113 experimental acres. Number of plots, probably close to 100,000. I have no idea.
Right. So many small ones.
So we have 2 combines that harvest, get this, 2 rows at a time. That is a big deal. 2 rows at a time simultaneously. And then we have one row combine. And then we have what are called bundle threshers. So you can either take a single.
Justin, turn off your phone.
Sorry, that was. I should have put on the no notification. And so you can even thresh single plants. So there's usually a team of some undergraduate students that are just threshing single plants all winter.
Wow.
Now there's a project you weren't expecting.
I did some harvesting by hand earlier this year. That was a fun time.
We don't.
Two
We
plants I
fortunately
called
don't
it a
have to
day.
open pods by hand, but I have had to do that in the past.
Whew. All right, there's a lot going on here, and I want to come back and visit about what you talk about in class with your students and also advising students. So, Dr. Miranda, we want to continue that conversation with you. It is 1:29, bottom of the hour here in the afternoon. Now, also, don't forget, for those listening, if you have questions and you want to ask them, please call in at 701-293-9000, and you can email us ag-or-weather@flagfamily.com. We would be happy to answer all those questions for you. And so we will be right back with Dr. Carrie Miranda, NDSU soybean breeder.
Right now, I'm driving to work, but that's not where I'm going. I'm going to more important things. I'm going to visit Papa. I'm going to go out with friends and to an anniversary dinner. And I look out at the big trucks and buses and people walking and think, we're all going somewhere, and we need to work together to share the road and get there safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Paid for by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration.
3 little words no parent wants to hear.
My tummy hurts.
And it always seems to happen at the worst times. Like in the middle of the morning rush, when you still have homework to check and lunches to pack, and of course, you're already late for work. Luckily, there's Pepto Kids. New Pepto Kids gummies helps relieve occasional stomach upsets, turning those 3 words into these 3 words.
I feel better.
Bad time for stomach upsets? Good time for new Pepto Kids gummies. Fast support for little tummies.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Tucker, WDAY News First. Mayville State University and the University of North Dakota are announcing the passing of a beloved coach and mentor. Katie Richards died in a car crash early Thursday morning near Reynolds. The vehicle Richards was riding in went off the road and rolled. Richards is known for her dedication to her friends, college basketball, and to her students. The Minnesota Court of Appeals has told a district court judge he had no authority to deny the restoration of voting rights to felons on probation or parole. The court vacated orders issued by Mille Lacs County Judge Matthew Quinn. Minnesota lawmakers approved a measure this year that restored voting rights to any felon who completes their prison sentence. Funeral services for a Minnesota native who died while playing hockey in England will be held this weekend in Hibbing. The family of Adam Johnson will hold a private funeral mass for the former University of Minnesota Duluth player on Sunday. That will be followed by a public celebration of life for Johnson at Hibbing Memorial Arena Monday afternoon. Johnson died when his neck was slashed by a skate during a hockey game last Saturday. And Sanford Health has received more than $120,000 in grant money from the American Cancer Society. We're told the money will help patients living in rural areas get to and from the hospital for their treatments. Tom Tucker, WDAY, and WDAYRadioNow.com.
They'll have you laughing right along with them. They're Bonnie and Friends.
All those cute little Highlander calves that people look at and they think, oh, they're so cute. I just want to know how big those cute little steaks are. Are they like lamb chop size?
I was going to say they have little tiny T-bones.
So yeah, I want to see what that looks like. Or maybe they only eat mini bales. This will be fun.
Probably mini salt licks too.
Right. Are the calves so tiny you tuck them in your purse and take them to church? What do you do with them?
That would be cute. Bonnie and Friends. Catch them weekday mornings beginning at 5.
Dad, I can't wait to be a builder someday, just like you.
Thanks, son. Yeah, it's rewarding work, but it's also hard, which is why I follow your grandpa's advice and wear quality work boots from Red Wing Shoes.
Hi, Teresa here, store manager at the Fargo Red Wing Shoe Store. For more than 100 years, Red Wing Shoes has been helping companies keep their workers safe and comfortable, even in the most hazardous conditions. Stop in and see for yourself at 3003 Main Avenue in Fargo. Red Wing Shoes for ultimate durability.
This is Weather and Ag in Focus with Bridgette Readel, Justin Storm, and Dean Wysocki.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus and our discussion with our guest today, Dr. Carrie Miranda, soybean breeder at NDSU. And so, Dr. Miranda, one of the things you mentioned is that you not only are researching out in the field, looking at new soybean varieties that could become public through our state seed department, but then also that you teach in a classroom as well. So what are you teaching this semester and what are the questions you might be getting from students?
So I am primarily research, but I have a 10% teaching appointment. So I teach one class a year, and I currently teach undergraduate plant breeding, if that's shocking at all. And it's an applied plant breeding class. So it's nice because I tell them about what our real life is like as a career, because up until this point, some students don't even know that plant breeding is a career option. So I get to describe to them how all the classes that they took sum up to contribute to this position, and then what our day to day is. So I do actually talk to them about the equipment, and then how you deal with weather, and cooperators, and and essentially like how our funding comes from and how we decide what to work on as well. And so, and actually today's class, I just finished class today at 11. In this class, we happen to be talking about how to analyze end of season data. So it's all tied very distinctly with real life.
And Carrie, I got a question. I sent Bridgette an article earlier this morning on how the FDA has approved gene editing for sickle cell disease, and how it's used in agriculture as well, and how it's very beneficial. Do you use any of that technology?
So, I am actually quite unclear about where the regulation is if I wanted to release a variety that was edited. Because from what I understood, that intellectual property was still being discussed by the courts on who owns it. And so therefore there was a hold on, at least for plants, there was a hold on us being able to use it for a variety release. However, you can use it for research, as far as I understand.
Okay.
So I am really interested I have an idea for a gene editing experiment, essentially trying to create a maturity group 00 soybean from a maturity group 0, because we don't completely understand the genetic control of maturity for soybean in North Dakota. And so I was curious to say, hey, I think I'm clever enough to figure out what genes they are. Let me go ahead and use the editing to delete them and see if I can create a maturity group 00.
So here's a question. I think we got a couple of things we need to define. Half of our audience is probably following along quite easily. The other half, which I am wrapped into as urban city folk. Maturity group 0. What's that, and how is a 00, or what is a 00, and what would be the significant difference between those two?
Yeah, absolutely. Maturity is actually one of my areas of expertise, so I am more than happy to talk about that for the next 10 days, if you like.
If you could, because we're not very good at maturity around here.
That's
so
for sure.
You're going to be the expert.
We're lacking.
Please. Thank you, Carrie.
Well, in terms of soybean maturity, how about that? In terms of soybean maturity, soybean, like corn, is sensitive to day length. It's not as sensitive as corn, but it is sensitive to day length. And so it performs differently depending on the latitude that it's grown at. So in the north here, we have longer days than they do in lower latitudes, say in Arkansas. Okay. And so because of that, a whole maturity map system has been created for soybean. The earliest lines, which that's how we design it, is earliest because of our long day length, but short season length. The earliest maturing lines are going to be at least in North Dakota, are going to start your maturity group 00s. And now what is supposed to happen is that as maturity increases day by day, then you would get what's called relative maturity. So you would have a 00 that say matures September 1st. And then you have a line that matures September 2nd that you could call a 00.1. And then if it matures September 2nd, it would be a 00.2, all the way to you get to 10 days. And then it would switch to maturity group 0. And then, so technically each maturity group is supposed to be 10 days apart. That's the idea. That's not necessarily always true, but that's why it's called relative. Like, it's pretty close. So in North Dakota, we plant by the Canadian border, maybe 00.6s, and then in the southeastern part of North Dakota, maybe down to a 1.3.
Bridgette, what did we plant?
We were actually I don't think we were double O's. We were just a little bit longer maturity than that. I honestly would have to go back and look at what our records were with Peterson Farm Seed because I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, but was it in the Cass County area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just
so
at Prosper, so it was just west of you at Northwest 22.
Yeah, so that's probably a maturity group 0. In Cass County,
yeah,
for maturity group early 0s. And then, unless you wanted a shorter season length, then you can grow a double 0, but then sometimes you're sacrificing yield for that. So that's the game, right? The longer the season, the higher the yield typically, but then also the increased risk. So, yeah. And so that's actually one of the research projects that one of my graduate students, Clara Muvada, is working on. We're trying to figure out how can we shorten that season length, but still maximize yield. So that way we can reduce risk, because I know people are not going to want to hear this, but we are overdue for that early October snow, aren't we? Like I thought this year was going to be it. We didn't, but I just know it's happening. And so it's like, let's just get everything nice and mature September 15th and high yielding,
Agreed. So when it comes to research and breeding, these different soybean traits and all the other stuff, what's the big problem? What's the big issue that everyone's racing to try and fix or come up with an answer for? Or maybe there's a couple of things, and maybe we can just kind of keep it local for our area, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, versus on a national level.
Yeah. And which is fine, because the problems that are going on in Illinois and Missouri are definitely not the same problems that we have here.
Hear that, Dean?
So
Illinois problems.
There usually is.
There are.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, some of Illinois' problems I wouldn't mind having, but it's okay.
All right, we got more problems. I'm sorry, Dean.
So this is all going to be relative, but in my opinion, the biggest soybean problem in North Dakota are going to be our yields compared to the rest of the Midwest. North Dakota production, so not just research, but North Dakota soybean production yields are some of the lowest in the Midwest. Although we have a lot of opportunity because we're increasing our acres so much. We're very competitive in terms of number of acres planted and harvested compared to the rest of the Midwest. And what's interesting is that we are still actively adding soybean acres compared to other states that are pretty well fixed in their rotation schedules. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for soybean production in North Dakota, but we really need to work on increasing those yields. And really, I think the biggest issue surrounding that is just that soybeans new here. We just haven't had that much time to put our resources in to increase soybean yield. And so I have another graduate student, Forrest Hansen, who will be graduating in May, but he's actively collecting some of that historical data to actually prove what I'm saying is true. But I'm feeling pretty confident in what I'm saying.
Right. So what do you think is the missing piece here? I mean, obviously we have shorter growing seasons, but what's the missing piece from keeping yields from, averaging out here in Cass around 40 to, say, maybe bringing that
60?
average up to 60 or even 70 bushels per acre as they get, more often further south?
Yeah, I'm definitely, my career aspiration is that 70 bushels per acre. And so, again, this is my hypothesis and something I'm trying to prove. I could be wrong, but what I think it's just a lack of diverse genetics for soybean. I believe that, I described the difference in maturity groups earlier. And so in order to do the pollinations to increase the amount of diversity of genetics that would have potential higher yields, it's actually pretty difficult to do that. You have to do the crossings under controlled environments, like in grow chamber boxes with controlled lighting, and then grow out the plants that are, might be crossed to maturity group 2, maturity group 3 in your fields, and they look crazy because they just grow into big bushes. But I think that is where the source of higher yield potential is utilizing some of those high yielding genetics from Illinois and Nebraska, and then bringing them to North Dakota, and then kind of sifting through all of the improperly adapted lines and finding the ones that work here. So yeah, actually, we're going to be planting these in the field next week. I should take a photo and send it to you guys so you can see like it. If you take a maturity group 2 and grow it in North Dakota, it just grows into like this big green bush that never puts on flowers or pods, and it just keeps growing vegetatedly. Yeah, it looks nuts, but you know, I'm early in my career that I this is a good project for me to bring in new genetics and then kind of go through the hard work of finding the stuff that's best for North Dakota.
Oh, and we like that you're finding what's best for North Dakota. That's pretty cool. So
yeah, I think that there's so much opportunity here, and I would definitely like, you know, NDSU varieties to be the one to break through that 50 bushel per acre yield. You know, there's definitely potential to get 60, 70 bushels, and production farms, not just research, but like production farming in the Red River Valley. And if that could be from an NDSU variety, that would be a huge point of pride in my career.
That'd be super cool. Let's just assume best case scenario here.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you maybe have a timeline on when areas of North Dakota may see 60 bushel beans? Is this a 10-year project, 20-year project?
Yeah. So the problem with me, and you can ask the people who work with me, and they'll be like, "Hey, Carrie, when can we get this done?" I'll be like, "Oh, next week. No problem." Right? No problem at all. We can totally sort this out. And then it's like a year later, and I'm like, "Oh, that took a little bit longer than I thought." But in reality, you know, I'm going to be optimistic for 10 years, because the thing is too, I know high yield alone without some of the herbicide traits, like, you know, in the very least, glufosinate, you know, Liberty. I know in the Red River Valley, people are more interested in enlist or extend beans. So acquiring those traits also takes some time, or even just setting up the private public partnerships to exchange high yielding materials also takes time. So it's like the science takes time, and then all the paperwork takes time too. So 10 to 15 years is probably realistic, but I'm going to be optimistic to think it'll be a little bit sooner.
I think everyone would be okay with that.
You got to have good weather with that too.
Better not have
you know,
us
that's funny that you say that, because this year we were looking at the data again. I was like, oh, wow, 2 consecutive years of good data. What did I do to deserve this? It's amazing. Because in 2021, we had the drought. And then in 2020, when I started, we had that early frost, like September 6th or something, which also kind of ruined my data. So I'm like, wow, 2 years of good data. Amazing.
And Carrie, one last question, if we could here. Is there any, seeing that we do often, you know, get drought conditions in the summer, especially the western part of the state, what kind of research is being done for drought resistant beans and you know, trying to overcome that?
Phenomenal. It's almost like I wrote that question for you. So thank you for bringing that up. I actually am funded by the North Dakota Soybean Council to explore exactly that. And it's funny because when I was a graduate student, if you would have been telling me I'd be working on drought, or what I like to call low water conditions out west, I would have been like, no way. That's like one of the hardest problems that you could possibly deal with, until the North Dakota Soybean Council came up and said, "Hey, Carrie, can you?" And I was like, all right, well, okay, I can figure that out. I'm lucky to have a great network of mentors, and one of those mentors is one of the leading drought researchers in the world. And so when I said, hey, we have this problem in North Dakota out west, he thought it was really interesting. And so we are creating some research lines based on work that actually was done in the South. So down in Arkansas, because they also have low water issues there. Mm-hmm. And so I have student Cole Williams, who is actively working to understand what happens to the plant when it has low water, and then we have some of the genetics from Arkansas that are supposed to overcome those difficulties. And soon enough, we'll be able to test those in the field too. So yeah, there is some promising work to get done, again, funded by North Dakota Soybean Council, which is fantastic. And I am optimistic that we can find something that Western North Dakota can utilize to get, I don't want to give a number to it, but like some sort of yield jump, because the plants would just simply require water.
And okay, I'm gonna throw the Justin question out at you.
When?
Yeah, what kind of time frame are you looking at? Maybe like 10 years?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, but in 10 years we will have tested these lines, because they will be ready for field testing, I think either in 2024 or 2025, depending on how fast I can expedite that. It has been a priority of mine. But then the issue is also validating the experimental protocols to make sure that we're testing the right thing. The worst thing I could do is say, yeah, absolutely, this line works in low water conditions, but then it wasn't tested properly, and then and then it doesn't work in certain conditions. So that's something that we're still validating, so that way we know that we're testing these lines appropriately. And then also our experimental field where we started it this year got hailed out in Williston. So there's always that fun.
Oh, man.
There's always that fun aspect.
Yeah.
Just like a Vikings fan, there's always next year.
Right. That's so true.
We were able to collect some data, but and drought studies are just very tedious. And then there's just, because it's a physiological problem, there's just so many different variables. So you really want to make sure that you design the experiment well to make sure that you're not allowing for any kind of like misinterpretation of results.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miranda. You have
Absolutely.
done a fabulous job, as always, of coming in and answering our questions for us with nothing less than fantastic enthusiasm. So, folks, we are going to come back in just a few minutes to recap weather and any other ag headlines we've got going on out there. But again, thanks to Dr. Miranda, and don't go anywhere. To the rest of our listeners, we'll be right back.
It is October 15th to December 7th. If you need help comparing your options, call Bell Insurance at 800-369-2501. Bell's health insurance agents can make sure you're in the right plan for 2024. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Currently, we represent 10 organizations which offer 50 products in your area. Contact Medicare.gov, 1-800-MEDICARE, or your local state health insurance program to get more information on all your options.
Brr, sounds like winter out there.
Did you just say?
Yep, they sure did, and it's coming. Hi, I'm Matthew, owner of Fix It Forward Auto Care. Winter's on the way, and it's time to get ready, including getting new all-weather tires designed specifically for our icy winter weather. Take advantage of our current rebates and availability, and our team can have you ready for winter today. Fix It Forward Auto Care, the name you trust for car repair.
Fix It Forward Auto Care.
Krebs Family Farm Bakery and Coffee Shop on 13th Avenue South has fresh baked caramel rolls, cinnamon rolls, muffins, pies, cookies with farm fresh ingredients.
Great tasting North Dakota coffee with your choice of dark roast, medium roast, or flavored coffee. And they do special orders for cookies and pies for the holidays, and now serving home-style lunches with a different home-cooked meal every day.
Open 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday and 8 to 4 on Saturday. Krebs Family Farm Bakery and Coffee Shop, 13th Avenue South, just east of 23rd Street in Fargo, and still located in the Moorhead Center Mall.
1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. As the only crisis center in our community, Rape and Abuse Crisis Center is here for you 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We believe survivors shouldn't have to pay for healing, so victim services are free and confidential. Every person has a right to live free of violence. Talk to someone today at 1-800-344-7273. Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, Fargo.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you roll with Charmin, ultra soft on the potty. This is supposed to roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The crib is always stocked. It's our party vibe. So our chicks feel fly. So everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Weather and Ag in Focus on WDAY Radio.
Just on a Sunday!
Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:55 on this Friday afternoon. Just got a little over 3-4 minutes left here in the show. If you want to call in quick, be a part of the conversation, 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoes phone line. Emails weatherorag@flagfamily.com, and all the comments over there on YouTube. Appreciate that. Thanks for watching. And Bridgette, you were looking into something. Did you by chance happen to find that answer, or should we hold off a moment on it?
So there's a couple of things that I've got for you. One was when we talked about the record land sale in Pembina County, little clarification. So there was the first deeded quarter went for $17,500. The second farm was at $18,600. So when you break it down, then yes, there was 2 parcels in there. They sold a little bit differently, and that information is available through a couple of different sources right now. And then, Dean, on your article earlier, when you were talking about gene editing, there's a couple of reasons why ag is looking at it. One had to do with bananas. There is a deadly fungus that plagues that crop.
You tell me my banana tree is at risk now.
It might be, but Justin and Dean, we've interviewed a gentleman from Florida about citrus greening in citrus trees, right? The disease that they were facing down there. That would also be another opportunity for gene editing to go to work in another fruit. So things that may be pursued. How's that sound?
Well, and there's a lot of false information about gene editing as well when it comes to agriculture, and it's obviously for the better if it can help.
By far for the better.
Yeah, if it can help our livestock, get off of antibiotics and all that good stuff. So that's a good.
Yeah, there's a number of reasons to be using it.
I didn't know there was a problem with bananas. When I was reading that article, I'm like, oh.
You mean radiation sticks?
Is that,
no.
Bananas?
I don't even want. I'm not.
You want to jump down a rabbit hole?
Not that one.
Come on. I see a rabbit.
I don't think we have enough time. Bridget's like.
And Dean, you mentioned. Dean mentioned livestock, and there's actually a story that I have for next week about hogs, because potentially there could be some gene editing for hogs that would prevent the swine flu, which could also be very, very helpful for producers.
Very, very interesting. Let's see. What do we got?
We have time for a recap of weather?
We got 2.5. We have time for a full forecast, Dean.
All right. We've got increasing sunshine out there, and temperatures, let's see where they're sitting at. Low 30s in the Northern Valley.
They're nice. That's where they're at.
Yep. Mid to upper 30s here in the Central and Southern Valley. In fact, a few 20s in the Northern Valley still. But we'll make it up into the upper 30s here in the FM area under partly cloudy skies. Tonight we'll have partly to mostly cloudy skies. Lows down into the 20s with light winds out of the north. The Minnesota deer opener is tomorrow morning. It's going to be a cool start with temperatures in the 20s and then warming up into the low to mid 40s for tomorrow afternoon. Not too bad with south winds at 5 to 15. And a little warmer on Sunday all the way up into the upper 40s. A few rain showers possible later in the afternoon. And then we'll cool it down a little bit to start next week. Maybe another little minor system coming in here on Tuesday with a rain or rain-snow mix with temperatures closer to 40. And I still don't see any big Arctic outbreaks, don't see any big storms. These 2 minor systems, Sunday and Tuesday, probably giving about 1/10 of an inch, if that, for each system. So not a big delay on harvest, but just enough to irritate you, I think. Is that going to do it?
That will be the case.
That'll do
Plenty
it.
of irritation.
Thanks
right?
for
right.
watching. Thanks for listening. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next. Everyone have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the funk.